We're going to do page 148 and 149 together on summarizing literary texts. I hope that you have taken the notes for summarizing literary texts in your ELA notebook. So our learning target, identifying and summarizing key details, will help you develop a deeper understanding of any literary text you read. So when you can summarize it, it's going to help you understand it better. For those of you who read big chapter books, if you summarized each chapter and then went back and read the summaries, you would understand the book a lot better. You could try that strategy with Pippi Longstocking. Write a short summary of each chapter we read, and then you can go back when we take our tests on Pippi Longstocking and read over your summaries. It will help you. All right, so when you summarize a story or drama, you briefly, that's important, briefly retell its key details. Key details are the most important about the characters, setting, main problem, and the events. Read the story below, identify the key details related to the characters, setting, main problem, and events. This story is called The Legend of Hua Mulan. You should recognize it as the story of Mulan. I don't know I guess Hua is her first name, and I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. "Beloved daughter," said the old man, "do not do this." The young woman shook her head. "You are too old to serve. My brother is but a child. I am the only one fit to fight." And so she put on men's clothing, left her village, and joined the army. At first the soldiers teased her. "The boy is so short, no hair on his face, no strength in those arms." And all they said was true. But she was stubborn and cunning. Her will and her wits won their respect. Soon the soldiers recognized her bravery and her brilliance in battle. For 12 years she fought alongside the men. But then the war ended, and the soldiers brought her home. After greeting her family, she disappeared into the house. Shortly, a woman in a dress emerged. "Who are you?" asked the soldiers. "Where is our fighter?" "I am Hua Mulan," she said, "and you are my brothers in arms." All was silent. Then one soldier smiled. Others joined him, and then the army let loose a cheer like none the village would ever hear again. So that you should be vaguely familiar with that story if you've seen the Mulan Disney video. Now we're going to take this and we're going to summarize it on the next page using the chart. So the first part of the chart is the characters. Who was in the story? Oh, I'm sorry, it's characters and setting. So first, who was in the story? So the main character was Mulan. Who else was in the story? The main character was Mulan, but let's go ahead and say who else was in the story. There were soldiers, her grandfather, her brother was briefly mentioned. The village was mentioned, but that was just in one sentence. If we took her brother, her grandfather, or the soldiers out of the story, if those characters weren't in the story at all, would we still have a story? No, we wouldn't. Also, where was the setting of the story? The setting was in a village. And it was also, sorry, y'all can't see all that. It was also on a battlefield. So we have Mulan, you could have said a young woman, or you could have just said Mulan, her father, and the soldiers. We said her brother also. It was in a village, or you could say the battlefields, because most of it took place in the village, I think. Yes, she went off to battle, but then she came back, and a lot of it happened there as well. So that's the characters in the setting. The main problem they filled in for us. Mulan's the only one in her family able to go to war, but girls can't join the army. That's a problem. Now, notice they didn't give details about her father's too old, her brother's too young. They summarized that. They told us that in as few words as possible. She's the only one in her family able to go to war, but girls can't fight, and she's a girl. So what are the events that take place in order for Mulan to solve her problem? Remember her problem. She's the only one in her family who can fight, but girls aren't supposed to fight. Well, she feels she has to fight. She feels if she doesn't fight, that her brother, and her brother's too young to fight, he's going to die. Her grandfather is too old to fight, he might die in battle. So she feels she has to fight. Now, what I just said was way too many details. The best thing is she feels she has to fight. How does she overcome that girls aren't allowed to fight? She dresses like a boy. She proves herself in battle with the soldiers, and then the soldiers bring her home. So Mulan feels it's her duty to fight. She dresses as a boy or a man. She proves herself, and the soldiers bring her home. Those are the events that happen in order of the story. The conclusion of the story: Mulan shows herself as a girl, and the soldiers are happy. Mulan reveals that she is a woman, and the soldiers cheer, accepting her. You can say what I did, you can say what they did, you can say something in your own words that means something similar. Now, I want to use, this is a chart, which is fine. I want to use our strategy that we talked about in our notebook of somebody wanted, but so then. All right? Somebody wanted to fight in the army, but women are not allowed to fight in the army. So Mulan dresses as a boy and proves herself in battle. Then she returns home, reveals herself to her comrades, and they still accept her. This is 3 sentences. It only tells the most important parts. You do not have to write this down. I'm just showing you how what we did in our ELA notebook can be used to write summaries of literary texts. Make sure that you have glued down your word study and you work on your word study activities for the week and get 15 minutes of iReady reading.